Friendly Spooky Stories, Part 1 by Jeff Kinney. The Changing. There once was a boy named Rowan, and Rowan was a happy child. He had two parents who loved him very much, and he had lots of toys to play with. Sometimes Rowan would bring his toys to school and play with them at recess, but he stopped doing that after he got bullied by some jerks. Grow up, baby. That made Rowan sad because he thought playing with the toys was the best thing about being a kid. But Rowan's classmates didn't feel the same way, and they were always trying to act older than they really were. One day, when Rowan was in class, he felt a strange tickling sensation under his armpit. He didn't know what it was, so he asked his teacher, Miss Pennington, if he could please be excused to use the restroom. When Rowan got to the bathroom, he took off his shirt and he was shocked to see a single hair growing from the center of his armpit. Rowan didn't know what to do, so he put his shirt back on and returned to class. When he sat down, he felt like everyone in his classroom could tell something was different about him, even Miss Pennington. When the final bell rang, Rowan ran all the way home. He knew his mother kept some tweezers in the bathroom, but he couldn't wait to use them to pull out the hair. But when Rowan took off his shirt, he could see it was too late for the tweezers. Suddenly, hair started sprouting all over Rowan's body, and before long, he was practically covered in it. By now, Rowan was totally panicking, and he went through his parents' bathroom cabinet to see if there were anything that might help him, and he found something that he thought would do the trick. But there's a reason kids shouldn't go poking around in their parents' bathroom cabinets, because 2 seconds after Rowan opened the bottle, he passed out from the fumes. When Rowan woke up, he was in bed. At first, he thought maybe he was whole thing with the hair thing was just a bad dream. But then he took out his arm and that told him it wasn't. Rowan's parents walked into his room, and he was afraid they were going to be mad at him for opening that bottle of hair remover without asking. But they didn't look mad at all. In fact, they looked kind of happy. Rowan's parents said they'd been waiting for this day for years, and it was time for them to have the talk. Rowan thought they had already had the talk when his parents told him how babies were made, but they said this one was a totally different talk. His parents said that sometimes when a child turns a certain age, their body starts to go through a changing, and that made Rowan sad because he liked himself just the way he was. By now, Rowan thought he knew where this was heading, so he asked the question that he has been on his mind all day. Am I becoming a man? Well, that made Rowan's parents laugh and laugh, and Rowan felt embarrassed because it took them a long time to stop laughing. After Rowan's dad wiped the tears from his eyes, he said Rowan was still a boy, and he was a different kind of boy. And when Rowan asked what he meant, that his dad gave him some bad news. You're a werewolf, son. This was definitely not what Rowan wanted to hear, but when Rowan's mom saw the worried look on her son's face, she said this was day to celebrate. Rowan's parents told him he came from a long life of werewolves, and suddenly the pictures on the staircase wall made a lot more sense to Rowan. Rowan started remembering clues growing up that should have told him his parents were werewolves, but he didn't. But he guessed deep down that he didn't want to admit the truth. Then Rowan started crying. He said he just wanted to have be a regular kid and have a normal life. But his parents said a werewolf could live a perfectly normal life as they kept on top of their grooming and hid who they were to the rest of the world. Rowan didn't want to hide who he was, though. He had always been taught to be yourself, and that's what he planned to do. But Rowan's parents told him there are ignorant people in the world who don't like anyone who is different. And Rowan knew exactly the type of people his parents were talking about. Then Rowan asked his parents a question he wasn't sure he was ready to hear the answer to. But don't werewolves eat people? Rowan's parents looked a little uncomfortable and said that was a subject for another talk later on. But Rowan had a feeling he knew the answer to his question the next day. He brought his toys with him to recess, and this time no one dared to mess with him. Rowan's example inspired his parents to stop hiding who they were too. And from that day on, Rowan and his parents lived as their true selves, and everyone else had just to deal with it. The end.